Hi, great to have you here. Today I want to take a look at some Dragon Ball characters that desperately need an SH Figuarts release. If you aren't familiar with the SH Figuarts line, it's the officially licensed premium Dragon Ball action figure line that's grown over the years, starting with the 1.0 Piccolo, and more recently with figures like the 3.0 Legendary Super Saiyan Goku. In creating this list, I tried to be pretty objective in determining what would be best for the line. I didn't just list characters that I want made, but more so want to call out characters that make sense at this point in time. Before jumping in, I will call out that due to where Tamashii Nations is in their release schedule, many of these characters I'll be covering do fall in the later parts of Dragon Ball Z. As most of you know, Tamashii follows somewhat of a progressive timeline with releases, of which they are currently in the Cell Saga. There isn't a perfect science on where they are in the timeline though when it comes to releases, since we have GT and Super figures that sporadically get dropped, and despite being at the Cell Saga currently, they've gone back to the Frieza Saga even when it seemed like we were out of it. Before jumping into the list, I want to call out 3 honorable mentions that I think have really cool designs, but weren't enough to make the list. First, we have the Supreme Kai. Second, we have an updated re-release of the Great Saiyaman. Then third and finally, we have an updated Saiyan Saga Vegeta. I mainly left off this Vegeta due to us recently getting a Namek version that's essentially Saiyan Saga Vegeta, just without the armor at the waist. So with that, let's jump into the top 10 Dragon Ball figure arts that we need. Starting at number 10, we have the big guy himself, King Kai. King Kai has been a staple of the franchise since the Saiyan Saga. His presence in the show has come and gone, but he was always in the thick of things during the final battles in the Z Sagas. He teaches Goku the iconic Kaioken and Spirit Bomb in the Saiyan arc. He subsequently trains the fallen Z Warriors during the Namek Saga, and later has a lot of cut-ins during Goku's fights throughout the series. He wouldn't need the best articulation, but he could have some really great accessories. You need his iconic hands behind his back pose, as well as a few other hands and face options I'll show here. It would be great if he came with the rest of his crew, Bubbles and Gregory, and maybe even throw in a halo or a hammer for Goku to train with. He's one that would be a really great add-on character, and one that would be great to add to the collection. Coming in at number 9, we have Cell Max. It baffles me we haven't gotten this figure yet. They blasted through all the superhero figures, and since the middle of last year haven't done anything further. We had the superhero Gohan, Piccolo, even Goku and Vegeta, Orange Piccolo, Beast Gohan, the 2 Gammas, as well as Pan. I have seen some people use a Cell Max statue in the interim, and even that looks pretty good. This feels like an inevitable release, but I'm really still surprised it hasn't happened yet. I imagine the new tooling and high price point has something to do with that. Cell Max could come with some crazy attacks and screaming faces, maybe even a fat Gotenks. Either way, we'll stay tuned because this figure is destined to come out eventually, possibly around when they do a 2.0 Cell. At number 8, we have a character that we've never gotten that's one of the more interesting side villains, and that's Dabura. The Demon King himself had such a cool design, and was an intimidating presence early on in the Buu Saga. He would have a lot of options when it comes to accessories. You could give him his Darkness Sword, he could come with a small articulated Babidi, you could have a spitting face, and maybe even a stone statue Krillin. He could come with a cookie, but that's possibly something that would come with an updated Buu DLC. There's a bunch of options here, and I'm pumped to see what we could eventually get. At number 7, we have Bojack Trunks. This is Trunks' iconic look from the Bojack Unbound movie. When people think of their favorite appearance for Trunks, many list this at the top. It's definitely a cool look with a tank top, ripped jacket, and long hair. Existing molds can likely even be recycled to create this. You could put Legendary Super Saiyan Goku arms on the recent 3.0 Trunks body, and you're pretty close to a finished product. Some may expect this to be a Comic-Con variant, but I wouldn't expect this since the change from standard Trunks is quite significant to warrant con exclusivity. They typically stick to small changes like repaints, but I guess you never know. We have gotten a few in the past that have had debatably significant changes, like the inclusion of Kid Gohan with Raditz. I expect he'd come with his standard accessories such as a sword, and either way, Bojack Trunks is sure to be a crowd pleaser and highly sought after release. Speaking of Trunks, at number 6 we have Goten and Kid Trunks. I realize these are 2 separate characters, but whether we like it or not, they frequently get lumped in together. I don't know if Tamashii would do a 2-pack, but these are technically smaller characters, so it's certainly justifiable. The separate release of Pan is the only reason I wouldn't guarantee a 2-pack offering. If we did, I could see it being a premium Bandai exclusive at about $100 for these 2. These are staples to the Buu arc, and it's crazy we haven't gotten them yet, even though Gotenks is their more recognizable form. I imagine at some point we both get a retool of the prior Gotenks, and finally a release of these 2 as their own unique characters. They could do a lot when it comes to DLC here. You could have Super Saiyan heads, you could have a Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks head, something with the Mighty Max, ultimately we'll have to wait and see once we get into the Buu saga. Coming in at number 5, we have a first appearance for this movie villain, and that is Janemba. I don't personally have a lot of ties to Janemba, but I can't deny how awesome his design is. Tamashii has been releasing a Z movie villain about once per year, so I expect his time is coming up soon. Of late we've had Cooler, which is many people's favorite figure, Turles, and most recently Metal Cooler. Janemba or Lord Slug would make sense to be next in the movie releases, so we'll see what happens. This is a character that we don't have an existing figure for, so many have adopted the Dragon Stars version as a placeholder. I do think this would be a great rival to pair with the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, or a future Super Saiyan Gogeta. And as far as accessories go, obviously I would say his sword. Doing something with his dematerializing ability would be cool, but I'm not sure how you would replicate that in a figure form. Either way, he wouldn't require much else in order to be a desirable selection for fans. Coming in at number 4 is probably the only Z movie villain that people would prefer over Janemba, and that's a new Z Broly. The prior releases of this figure are seen as grails and have crazy aftermarket prices, so it's surprising that Tamashii hasn't already gone back to the well with this one. He would sell like crazy, and it looks like we may even have some third-party activity here. I'm not someone who has a strong preference for Z or Super Broly. I think both are great and work in their own way, but I know a lot of people only recognize the original from Z. For accessories, I would replicate what we've gotten in the past with his green blast attacks. Overall, an updated release here is absolutely necessary and will be a complete money printer. At number 3, we have the only other updated release outside of Z Broly, which is Perfect Cell. An updated mold here would be, well, the perfect addition to everyone's collection. Most people seem to dislike the prior Perfect Cell releases, and even opted for the Dragon Stars alternate as a fill-in. We need a 3.0 of one of the franchise's most iconic villains, probably second only behind Frieza. A 3.0 articulated Cell would be great for creating the epic battle with Gohan, as well as earlier fights like he had with Goku. Accessories here could be Cell Juniors, Android 16's head, or even the final Kamehameha. Hopefully the scaling would feel appropriate. I know they tend to scale everyone towards the middle, but Cell should tower over his opponents, and sadly it felt like his first forms figure didn't quite measure up to expectations. This will be a must-buy for fans of the series, and I think would do well even as a general release. At number 2, we have Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta have been stellar releases, and it only makes sense to now drop their fused ultimate form. Tamashii seems to be digging further into the GT line with likes of figures such as Kid Goku or GT Trunks, so I imagine they're going to continue to dabble in this space. Maybe we'll wind up getting franchise villains like Baby or Omega Shenron. But part of why I want to get this video out is that we just got the announcement of Super Android 17. But regardless of any of those, we need Gogeta. Other than Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he is the definition of Dragon Ball GT and will be a high seller for the line. It does make sense for them to have built time between Gogeta and the Goku and Vegeta releases to build hype and provide variety in the meantime. For accessories, I expect a Big Bang Kamehameha and maybe additional GT Kid Goku DLC. Whatever he comes with, I can't wait for when we eventually get this guy. Finally, at number 1, we have the only main arc villain from Z that we haven't gotten a figure for yet. The final villain of the entire Z franchise even. That's right, we need a Kid Buu. It's wild we've gotten other forms of Buu to this point, but not a Kid Buu. He's the epitome of evil and is a perfect addition to the SH Figuarts line. Like others mentioned here, but even more so, it's a matter of when, not if, Kid Buu gets released. I have no doubt that once Tamashii gets into the Buu saga, this figure will ultimately get announced. There's even third-party companies planning to put out their own versions, as you can see here. For accessories, Kid Buu would need to come with his maniacal faces, potentially a blast attack, or maybe even some of that classic Dragon Ball humor. But regardless, I look forward to when we get an official SH Figuarts release of this pure evil Kid Buu. Well, there you have it. That's the list of characters I believe we need an SH Figuarts new release of. What do you think? Is there someone I missed? Or is there a character you deeply value that you think needs made? Please let me know in the comments down below to keep the discussion going. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope to talk to you again soon.